Hi, it's Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks bringing you your weekly Mag 7 update, the Magnificent 7. I did record this video on Monday, December 22nd, 2025, and as usual, I begin with Microsoft. And this is broad brushstroke analysis. There's not 3 to 5 day swing trade or even so much 3 to 5 week, but kind of multi-month moves. 3 to 5 week is included for sure to some extent. Let's start with Microsoft. You've got this 5-year channel top that we tested both the inside and outside. The outside at 576.10 is the more significant. It is the ceiling through 26. And if settled above, does mark another longer-term phase of upward continuation. But until then, this zone between 550.20 and 576.10 is your ceiling, sellable ceiling, whether you're long and you're exiting a long position, taking profits, or whether you're looking at playing the short side in Microsoft. The 550 to 576 area is significant. And that we've tested the channel top. With respect to channel dynamics, the technical elements, you must allow possible bearish rotation to channel support. That is at 384.12 and climbing. So holding below the 550s, 570s and climbing does allow at some point in 26 the 380s and climbing. That is really the big picture. Do I expect 384.12? No. Would I be surprised if we tested it by some point in 26? Absolutely not. Would not be surprised in the least. And in fact, let's take a look kind of the nearer term. We broke from this upper area that I'd mentioned, and we settled about a month and a half ago below a horizontal channel bottom that this week is at 490.24. You also have the high of the low that was put out the week of November 24th. And so the two combined really form a range of overhead resistance that I would say is near to midterm. We can set a short in this low 490s, anticipating eventually, and I've been saying this for a month and a half, downward continuation into the mid to upper 420s. 427.84 is a full channel extension, similar to this channel, but a full channel extension. And also 425.36 is a downside 5/8 Fibonacci from that April low against that July high. So bottom line, holding below the low 490s will keep the mid to upper 420s in reach, still saying over the next 2 or 3 months. Upside, if we did close this week above 492.63, this market likely continues into the 550 region within 2 or 3 months. Once again, this is the beginning of a wide zone up to 576.10 that can contain buying through all of 26. And yes, if we close above 492.63, I see no compelling reason to be short Microsoft. If you're out of Microsoft, this is a good indication to go long Microsoft over the midterm, over the next 2 or 3 months. Until then, stay out of Microsoft or be short Microsoft into the mid to upper 420s. On to Meta. Descending channel top 664.75. This comes off of the high from last August. 4 or 5 month channel structure, able to contain buying through January, and yes, below which we can continue south. We have this lower low, lower high dynamic playing out that is defined by this channel top. We can continue south into the 554.30 region still over the next 2 or 3 months, where we could bottom out on a quarterly basis. By that point in time through Q2, possibly into later 26. I could see trading inside of this wedge for the next couple of months. If we close below 554.30, then expect within 2 or 3 more months 437.16. This is a 3-4 year channel bottom, well suited to contain selling pressures through all of 26. I don't expect it unless we close below 554.30. Now for the upside, if we do manage to close this week above 664.75, I would anticipate continuation into the 785, 796 region, this high area and high settlement price. Now, there will be tests on the way up, but I call this a 2 to 3 month target. There's an upside 5/8 that I can show you here quickly, and that is roughly, at 714. So closing above 664, 714.75 likely within a few weeks. But within 2 or 3 months, this high area again at 785.23 to 796.25, where we could, yes, double top for a month on a monthly, possibly quarterly basis, and if settled above, would then indicate the 877.55. 877.55 is a significant 3-4 year rising channel top that can contain buying through all of 26 if tested. I only really expect 877 unless we close above 785.23, but given the overall bullish dynamic, if we do close above 664.75, I wouldn't be surprised if by the middle of 26 we find ourselves in this upper 800 area anyway. So there's that. Let's move on to Alphabet. Alphabet has an incredible run following the settlement above this 228.82 channel top back in September. And this has been pretty vertical until the last few weeks. And last week, on an intra-week basis, we collapsed below this gap zone, also below this steeply rising channel bottom. They all come together, including the channel bottom itself, in this 306.42 to 309.59 region. 309.59 is the low of the high. 306.42 is this gap that previously existed. We closed inside of it. Which way do we go from here? I skew to the downside, and I say skew purposefully. I'm not convinced of an outright sell signal, but if you did sell the market last week anticipating, or maybe you unloaded a long position, I think it's worthy of that. We did close below the low of the high. That in itself is a sell signal. We did not close below the rising channel bottom. We did not close below the gap fill. And so, it probably deserves another week. If we do close below 306.42, we have a couple of meaningful sell signals that I think, given the verticalness of this move, we can give, and this is only half back. And so it's not as if we're giving it all back, but these, I call them church steeple rallies, these mania-driven rallies. Once the high is in, the question is, when is the high in? And I think the high in a near to midterm basis is in with a settlement this week below 306.42. You can anticipate over the next 2 to 3 months, perhaps, this could be a symmetrical move. This from here, from September to the November high, this is 2.5 months. So yes, 2.5 months later, we can find ourselves in the upper 220s to mid 230s. Solid zone to cover a short position, solid zone to bottom pick into later 26. We could bottom out at this classic channel top through all of 26. It is anticipated if we close this week below 306.42. Until then, let's let this play out. We might spike higher and continue onward and upward as we move through the week and into next. On to Amazon. Amazon, well, a couple things I want to say. We did back in November test this horizontal, mostly channel top that did contain the highs, 255.36. I've been mentioning how 255.36 up to 274.06 is considered long-term resistance, able to contain buying possibly through 26. But if you were to break it down into a multi-week trade, you could say that closing above 255.36 would signal 274.06, possibly in as little as 3 to 5 weeks. I don't expect 255.36 anytime soon unless we close above 238.49, which is the low of the high. Following the testing of this channel top, we collapsed back. A week later, we closed below the low of the high, and that has held the highs, the pullback highs, ever since. Holding below 238.49, let's just jump to the next chart. This channel support in the 218.01 to 226.10 region remains in close reach. You can ignore 226.10 if you want, or if you are anticipating, if you're buying Amazon right now, because truly holding above this 8-month channel bottom at 218.01 does maintain a bullish dynamic as we move into Q1. We can, let me get rid of this cursor line, we can round out from here and push into the 250s, 270s as already illustrated within 2 to 3 to 5 months. Closing above 238.49 should yield that in a matter of weeks. This upper zone, once again, able to contain buying well into next year. So if we close above 238.49, you do have a 3 to 5 week swing trade to the upside to 255.36. Holding below 238.49, we'll keep this 218.01 formation in reach where we can bottom out through Q1. This is a decent bottom picking area as we move through the first quarter. If you're looking to buy Amazon, this is really the last threshold I think that you can buy sensibly into actually through the first quarter because we can round up from here. But if we do close below 218.01 this week, just the opposite. 218.01 is a classic pivot point, above which we are bullish through Q1 into that 255, 275 region. And if we close below 218.01, we've got a 2 to 3 month sell signal down to 176.64, where we could actually bottom out through the second quarter, possibly into later 26. 218.01 is our pivot point through Q1. We are above it, and so this market remains constructive through Q1 above it. On to Apple. Apple, we provide analysis. We break it down in detailed format, a 10-minute video roughly every single week. So I'm reluctant to get into the weeds on this, but I will say, and as I have been, you have a 5-year channel top at 283.05 that held the December high, has been holding the highs for the last month and a half. It is the level that can contain buying through the first quarter, possibly in the later 26, and we can fall away from here. The channel bottom is in the upper 180s, not labeled. That is what's possible over the next year or two. And last week, we did close below this 276.62 rising channel bottom, which has now indicated the 240s. I'm not showing that, but I do show it in that Apple video. The reason I don't mean to be, vague about this, but I kind of have to be because we've got subscribers who actually pay for this information, and I just don't want to give it away when they're actually paying for their weekly Apple stock analysis. So we are in a sell signal right now, expecting the 240s and climbing over the next 3 to 5 weeks. If we can, on the other hand, close above 283.05, and that should be by a 1% margin. So add 2.83 to 283.05, and you're going to get 286 something or other, 286.90, I don't know, 93? 286.93. I'm doing my best here. So if we do close above 283.05 by a 1% margin, no good reason to be short Apple. And if you're not long yet, you want to be. I do think over the following year or two, we can find ourselves in the 380s and climbing. On to Tesla. Tesla we cover every single day on our YouTube channel. And we came off of this 8-month channel bottom about a month and a half ago at 417.19. When we were testing it, we mentioned how this is a good area to go long, anticipating 2 to 3 months upward rotation to 530.55, this 6-year channel top. If we close this week above the 488.53 December high from last year, then we should see this in about 2 or 3 weeks. 530.55, 6-year channel resistance, able to contain buying through the first quarter, possibly all of 26. Downside 417.19, we're not going to see it this week, but if we fell back over the next few weeks, it does represent a solid buy through the first quarter, and we can round up again. If we do close below that level, then I would expect 298.54. This is an amendment now. This is a 50% downside retracement from the January 23 low following that November high. So this is a new anticipated objective. We have a new high. This, I think, is realistic within 2 to 3 months of closing below 417.19. And I say that because of the wild sweeping nature we've had with Tesla over the last year and a half. If we close below 417.19, more of the same, we could give much of this back into the upper 290s. And finally, no, not finally, 2 more to go, Nvidia. Nvidia, we had a sell signal about 5-6 weeks ago below this 196.75 channel bottom, anticipating the 168.22 channel bottom. We do cover Nvidia, by the way, on wickedstocks.com. It is part of our daily analysis. So this is a daily analysis you can find at wickedstocks.com that also includes the daily SPY and the daily triple Q. But 168.22 is a solid midterm support, able to contain selling through the first quarter. And from here, we can round up into this 219 to 228 region within 2 to 3 months. Now, 196.75 is still a sellable level, but not as significant as before. And in fact, if I were to amend this, and I have at 188.76, I'm going to clear this up right now and just show that 188.76 is sellable resistance. This is our 2 to 3 week time frame. Buying 168.22, selling 188.76. But if we close above 188.76, that mid 190s, yes, it could contain daily or maybe 3 to 5 day highs, but a settlement above 188.76 is your go long on strength. And I think within a couple of months of doing so, we should find ourselves in that 219 to 228 area. Until then, this is a 2 to 3 week ping pong match. You can buy 168.22 168.22 and sell 188.76. Now, if we do close this week below 168.22, all bets are off. 2 to 3 month sell signal into the 120s, 123.84, then expected by the end of Q1, where we actually could bottom out through all of 26. This is long-term support for Nvidia. And finally, Palantir, not part of the Mag 7, but I know people like to see what we're thinking. We did bottom out back in November at this classic. It's really like a one-year channel, but if you go all the way back to August of 24, you could say 1.5-year channel bottom. 162.60 still able to contain selling on a quarterly basis, and above which new highs remain in reach within several months. We're over a month into bottoming out here, and we've now pushed above 186.96. This is that high settlement price, kind of the shelf top that we clearly pushed above last week. So 186.96 does represent a new buy signal on a near-term basis. 186.96 above which, expecting 210, sorry about that, 210. Oh boy, we've got these notifications. 210.33 within 2 to 3 weeks. 210.33 can contain buying into later January. We can fall away from here. Closing above 210.33 signals 240.14 within another 3 to 5 weeks. I'm going to take us back to this chart and just make the broad mention. And once again, that's actually wrong. Bear with me. Don't mean to drag you through all this. Peculiars, 240.14 is the actual channel top. And so, bear with me. The point I really want to make here, and I have before, is holding above 162.60 will keep 240.14 in reach as a 3 to 5 month possibility. Last week's settlement above 186.96 likely narrows that to within 2 to 3 months. And on the way up, we do have a test this week at 210.33, able to contain weekly highs, possibly monthly highs, and if settled above, should then yield 240.14 within about 3 to 5 weeks, where we can top out into the second quarter. Finally, with Palantir, if we were to close in the coming weeks below 162.60, then I think we test 125.41 within a month or two. This 91.30 full channel extension within 2 to 3 months. 16 minutes. I'm going to leave it at that for this week's Mag 7 update. You have a great week.